Good evening. Violent clashes have erupted in Kensington ahead of a speech from controversial political commentator Milo Yiannopoulos. Mark Santomartino is there. Mark, can you tell us what the situation is now?
Well, Tony, battle lines have been drawn by police in between these two groups of protesters who just moments ago turned incredibly violent against one another. You can't actually see it behind me because these protesters have actually closed in around the police, but there are dozens, if not more than 100 here, most of them in riot gear as they try to make this crowd subside. Earlier, we saw different groups clash. There were more than 600 left-wing protesters here when a number of right-wing protesters showed up, and almost instantly violence broke out. Now, the police were quick to swoop. So at least two men we saw were pepper sprayed. They were pulled off to the side into the crowd of supporters who are here tonight for Milo Yiannopoulos, the controversial online cult right-wing journalist, I suppose you could say, who has earned a really strong following online thanks to his anti-feminist, anti-Muslim and anti-pedophile views. We did manage to catch up with his tour manager today, who says all of these shows in Melbourne are sold out, 12,000 tickets, and he says these protesters really shouldn't be here. It's against freedom of speech.
This is costing the taxpayer, it's costing Penthouse, it's costing Milo an absolute fortune, simply because his views are different from the status quo.
So as you can see, the protest continues. It's getting louder and louder as we speak. There are microphones and boom boxes, all of the rest as these left-wing protesters take action against Milo Yiannopoulos, who we are told is inside holding a VIP dinner. There are riot police currently just moving right past me. We're unsure what for, but into the secluded area at the back of the venue, potentially to protect Milo himself. Unfortunately, we don't know how long these protesters are going to be here for, but the first event doesn't start until 8 o'clock, and there's another one directly after that.
The arrival of controversial right-wing commentator Milo Yiannopoulos in Melbourne is being met with protests. Blake Johnson is in Kensington, and Blake, there's heavy security there tonight.
Yeah, huge police presence here, Jen. About 50 police officers are standing outside the Melbourne Pavilion. At this stage, though, it's pretty calm, so their presence is a bit of a preemptive strike against any potential protests. Milo Yiannopoulos is holding 3 sold-out shows in Melbourne. The right-wing political commentator is seen as controversial. On one side of the crowd, you've got the people queuing to get in, so the supporters of Milo. On the other side of the street, the protesters. The man who is promoting Milo's tour says the police presence here is really unnecessary.
It's actually paid speech. This is costing the taxpayer, it's costing Penthouse, it's costing Milo an absolute fortune, simply because his views are different from the status quo.
And those views have certainly been judged to be controversial, views on religion and same-sex marriage, which can be interesting because Milo himself is a gay man. The show starts at 6:30. There are 3. He's done Perth and Adelaide so far. 12,000 tickets have been sold to his 7 shows in Australia. So there is no doubt he is very popular, but he also has his detractors, Jen.
OK, thank you, Blake.